Marriage feels like prison. My wife complained at our anniversary dinner, so I set her free and locked my heart and wallet while she watched her future collapse. This marriage feels like a prison sometimes, she said, laughing as she clinked glasses with her friends. She didn't even lower her voice or check if I could hear. Why would she? I was just the reliable husband who worked 60-hour weeks to fund her lifestyle while she found herself through expensive hobbies that changed monthly. The room continued buzzing with conversation, but everything became muffled in my ears. 5 years of sacrificing my dreams, postponing my career advancement, and prioritizing her happiness reduced to a prison sentence she was serving against her will. The fancy dinner I had spent weeks planning suddenly tasted like ash in my mouth. I maintained my composure, smiling and refilling glasses, while my mind raced through every compromise, every argument where I yielded, every vacation planned around her preferences. The mortgage on the house, she insisted, we needed despite being beyond our budget. The weekends spent with her family while mine lived across the country, rarely visited. The promotion I declined because it would require relocation to a city she disliked. Later that night, as she slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling, replaying her words. This wasn't the first complaint, just the most devastating. 3 months prior she had mentioned feeling trapped when I suggested starting a family. 6 months before that, she had compared our suburban life to a comfortable cage during dinner with her college friends. The pattern was clear, but I had been too blind to see it. The next morning arrived with unexpected clarity. Something had fundamentally shifted within me. Not rage or desperation, but cold resolve. If marriage was her prison, I would become the warden who unlocks the cell. But freedom comes with consequences, and I intended to ensure she understood exactly what she was being freed from. I began with subtle changes. I stopped checking in throughout the day. My responses to her demands became measured, reasonable, but no longer eager to please. I started working out again, something I'd abandoned due to her complaints about gym time taking away from us time. I reconnected with old friends she had deemed too immature for our married life. She noticed, of course. At first there were curious glances, then probing questions about my mood or if something was wrong. I deflected with the same casual dismissiveness she had perfected. When she asked about the changes in my behavior 2 weeks later, I simply shrugged and said I was finding myself, echoing her favorite justification for her own self-centered decisions. The conversation that followed was one-sided. She listed all the ways I had changed, how I wasn't being fair or communicative. The irony was lost on her. As she complained, I silently calculated our assets, remembered the prenuptial agreement she had reluctantly signed, and planned my next steps. I contacted a lawyer the following day using my lunch break to ensure complete privacy. The attorney was impressed with my foresight and documentation. I had kept records of our financial contributions, her extended periods of unemployment, and evidence of her frequent implications that our marriage was restricting her freedom. The prison doors were about to open, but not in the way she imagined. While she dreamed of keeping the benefits of our marriage while escaping its responsibilities, I prepared to show her what real independence meant for both of us. Freedom from her complaints. Freedom from constantly walking on eggshells. Freedom from the subtle manipulation and guilt that had become our daily language. As I finalized my strategy with cold precision, I realized that her prison metaphor had been accurate after all. But she had not identified the true prisoner in our relationship until now. For the next 3 weeks, I lived a double life with surgical precision. To the outside world, I remained the devoted husband, attending social gatherings and maintaining our routine. Behind this carefully constructed facade, I executed my liberation plan methodically. First came the financial separation. I opened a new bank account at a different institution, and began redirecting my paychecks there, leaving only enough in our joint account to avoid suspicion. The considerable bonus I had received for exceeding sales targets, money she had already mentally allocated toward her latest wellness retreat, was secured in my private account. The prenuptial agreement became my shield and sword. During our engagement, she had dismissed it as a formality and unnecessary paperwork, signing it with barely a glance while focusing on wedding venue selections. Now those carefully worded clauses would protect the assets I had brought into our marriage, and most of what I had earned during our 5 years together. I documented everything meticulously. Screenshots of her social media posts complaining about married life. Text messages, where she canceled our plans for spontaneous outings with her friends. Bank statements showing her extravagant purchases against our agreed budget. Each piece of evidence was date-stamped and backed up securely. While organizing our financial records, I discovered something that hardened my resolve further. She had been researching property values in another state, One where her former college boyfriend had recently relocated for work. Browser history revealed late-night searches for job opportunities in the same city. The prison break she had been planning would have left me as the unsuspecting victim. The house required special attention. It was the largest asset we shared, purchased primarily with my down payment but with both our names on the mortgage. The lawyer suggested several options, and I decided selling would be cleanest. Without her knowledge, I contacted a real estate agent to assess its value in the current market. Throughout this process, I maintained perfect composure at home. When she suggested an expensive weekend getaway to reconnect, I agreed enthusiastically while mentally calculating how this would deplete her personal savings further. When she initiated intimacy for the first time in months, I participated with convincing passion, while feeling nothing but tactical awareness of her sudden interest. The day I selected for confrontation was not random. It was the evening after her company's quarterly performance reviews, a day when she typically received confirmation of her modest bonus. She would be thinking about financial security and future plans, the perfect mindset for what was to come. I prepared the setting carefully. Dinner at home rather than a restaurant to avoid public scenes. Her favorite meal ordered from the upscale place she preferred. Wine she enjoyed but I found overpriced. The familiar environment would make the shock more impactful when it arrived. She noticed the special arrangement and misinterpreted completely. Smiling with self-satisfaction, she assumed this was my attempt to apologize for my recent emotional distance. As she took her first bite, complimenting the food, I observed her with clinical detachment, the confident posture of someone who believed they controlled the relationship narrative. "I've been thinking about what you said," I began casually, refilling her wine glass. "About marriage, feeling like prison." Her fork paused midway to her mouth, surprise flickering across her face, before being replaced with careful neutrality. "That was just a joke. You know how I talk when I'm with friends? I've heard variations of that joke many times over the past year." I continued, my voice steady. "And I've decided you're right. It's wrong to keep someone imprisoned against their will." Confusion clouded her expression as I reached for the manila envelope beside my chair. The divorce papers inside were comprehensive, prepared with the attention to detail that had once made me an attentive husband and now made me a formidable adversary. "I'm setting you free," I said, sliding the envelope across the table with the finality of a chess player declaring checkmate. "Complete freedom, just as you wanted." The color drained from her face as she stared at the unopened envelope. Reality crashing through her carefully maintained delusions. In that moment, as her eyes met mine searching for signs of bluffing, she finally recognized the man sitting across from her. Not the pushover she had manipulated for years, but someone who had found his own kind of freedom in letting go of a prison he had built for himself. Her reaction transitioned through emotions like seasons changing, rapid, inevitable, and each with its distinct climate. First came disbelief, her fingers hovering over the envelope without touching it, as if proximity alone might make this reality disappear. "This isn't funny," she finally said, her voice unnaturally high. "What kind of sick joke are you playing?" I took a measured sip of wine before responding. "It's not a joke. It's a response to what you've been saying for months. I'm giving you exactly what you've been asking for. Freedom from this prison." She tore open the envelope then, scanning the first page with increasingly frantic movements. Her carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the flush of panic spreading across her face, as legal terms and asset divisions registered in her mind. "You can't be serious," she whispered, looking up with wide eyes. "Over one comment at a dinner party, you're throwing away 5 years of marriage because I made a stupid joke." "Not one comment," I corrected calmly. "A pattern of comments, actions, and choices that made your feelings quite clear. I simply decided to believe you when you repeatedly told me how trapped you felt." The denial phase ended abruptly as anger surged to take its place. She stood up, sending her chair scraping backward with a harsh sound against hardwood floors. "You manipulative bastard. You've been planning this behind my back, while pretending everything was normal." Her voice rose with each accusation, hands shaking as she clutched the papers. "What about working on our marriage? What about couples therapy? You don't just ambush someone with divorce papers." I remained seated. My posture relaxed despite the storm raging before me. "When exactly did you suggest couples therapy? Between complaining about our marriage to your friends, or researching apartments in the same city as your ex?" That stopped her cold. The color drained from her face as quickly as it had appeared. I hadn't planned to reveal that particular discovery so early, but her self-righteous anger made it necessary to establish the true dynamics at play. You went through my search history, she deflected, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. I reviewed our shared computer while organizing our financial records, I clarified. Just as I reviewed our bank statements and found the secret credit card you opened 3 months ago. The one with charges for hotels in Cincinnati on weekends you were supposedly visiting your sister in Columbus. She sank back into her chair, the anger transforming into calculation before my eyes. The tactical retreat was impressive. Within seconds, her entire demeanor shifted. The furious accuser became the tearful, regretful wife. I've made mistakes, she admitted, tears welling in eyes that remained strategically focused on mine. I was confused, feeling lost in my life. But I never acted on any of it. I never cheated. I was just exploring options because I was scared. Her hand reached across the table toward mine, but I withdrew mine casually, reaching for my water glass instead. The separate credit card with over $12,000 in charges wasn't confusion. The consistent pattern of complaints about our marriage wasn't confusion. I kept my voice even, factual rather than accusatory. And even if it was, I'm not interested in being someone's reluctant choice or backup plan. The tears flowed freely now, but I recognized the performance. The same emotional display had worked countless times before when she wanted to escape consequences. The same vulnerability had once made me feel needed, protective. Now it only confirmed how manipulated I had been. What about our house? Our future? She asked, shifting tactics again. We were planning to start a family next year. No, I corrected gently. I was planning a family. You were planning an exit strategy. I stood up, gathering the dishes with casual domesticity that contrasted sharply with the conversation's gravity. The house will be sold, with proceeds divided according to our prenuptial agreement and documented contributions. As for a future together, that prison sentence has been commuted. As I loaded the dishwasher, I heard her final desperate strategy deploy behind me. Your parents will be devastated. They love me. Everyone will blame you for not trying harder to save this marriage. I turned, meeting her tear-streaked face with calm certainty. My parents raised me to value myself enough not to stay where I'm not wanted. As for everyone else, their opinions matter far less to me than my self-respect. Her expression hardened then, mask finally dropping completely as she realized manipulation would not work. The cold calculation in her eyes confirmed every decision I had made leading to this moment. You'll regret this, she said quietly. You think you're punishing me, but you'll be the one alone while I move on. I smiled for the first time since our conversation began. That's exactly the point. We'll both be free to move on, just as you wanted. News travels fast in social circles, especially when it involves the disintegration of a marriage everyone had assumed was solid. The first wave hit 2 days after our confrontation, when her closest friend called me, voice dripping with rehearsed concern. She's absolutely devastated, the friend informed me, as if revealing breaking news. She says this came out of nowhere, that you've changed completely in the last month. We're all worried about you. I recognized the reconnaissance mission for what it was. Information gathering disguised as concern. My response was polite but firm. Thank you for your concern. This is between my wife and me, and I prefer to keep our private matters private. Similar calls followed from other members of our social circle. Each conversation revealed more about the narrative she was constructing. That I had suddenly become cold and controlling. That I was going through some kind of midlife crisis, that I had possibly met someone else. The lies were creative but consistent in portraying her as the blindsided victim. The most difficult call came from my parents. Despite living across the country, they had maintained a close relationship with her through video calls and social media. My mother's voice trembled with confusion when she asked what had happened to the daughter-in-law. She thought she knew. She reached out to us crying yesterday, my mother explained. Said you refused counseling, and wouldn't even discuss what went wrong. Your father and I are concerned about you, son. That conversation required complete honesty. I shared specific examples of her behavior over the years, including screenshots of messages where she had complained about visiting my family, while simultaneously telling them how much she missed them. The documented evidence of her deception silenced their doubts. We always sensed something wasn't quite right, my father admitted after a long pause. The way she would say one thing to us and then post something completely different on social media, we just didn't want to interfere. Their unwavering support strengthened my resolve as the social fallout intensified. Mutual friends began taking sides, some avoiding both of us altogether. Invitations dwindled. Social media became a minefield of passive-aggressive posts and conspicuous absences from group photos. Through it all, I maintained my composure and professionalism. At work, I channeled my emotional energy into productivity, securing the largest client account of my career during this tumultuous period. My colleagues noticed the change, not a breakdown, but a focused intensity that had been missing before. 3 weeks into our separation, I received an unexpected message from someone I barely knew, the husband of one of her college friends. His terse text asked to meet for a drink about something important. Curiosity outweighed caution, and I agreed. The sports bar he chose was deliberately anonymous, far from our usual social haunts. His handshake was firm, his expression grim as we found a quiet corner booth. "I thought you should know what's being said when you're not around," he began without preamble. "My wife doesn't know I'm here, would probably divorce me if she found out." He revealed that she had been complaining about our marriage for over a year to anyone who would listen. More damning was his revelation about a conversation he had overheard 6 months earlier, when she had openly discussed her exit strategy with his wife during a weekend visit. She had it all mapped out. Wait until you secured the promotion you were being considered for, then file for divorce once your income increased. The timing of your move surprised her completely. He looked genuinely uncomfortable sharing this information. "I'm not trying to stir up more trouble, man. Just thought you deserved to know you made the right call." That night I returned to the small apartment I'd rented after moving out of our house. The sparse furnishings and echoing emptiness no longer felt like a downgrade from our carefully decorated home. Instead, it represented something far more valuable: authenticity and peace. Meanwhile, her carefully constructed victim narrative began showing cracks as more people recognized inconsistencies in her story. The friend who had initially called to investigate later reached out again, this time with a different tone. "I saw her having lunch with her ex yesterday," she admitted reluctantly. The same ex she swore she hadn't spoken to in years. Something isn't adding up in her story. The most unexpected development came when her own sister contacted me. Not with accusations, but with a confession. She asked me to lie about her visiting me on those weekends, her sister revealed. "I covered for her because she's my sister, but I can't keep doing it. This isn't right. You were always good to her and to our family." Each revelation confirmed what I had already known but provided validation that my decision had been sound. The prison doors hadn't just opened. They had disappeared completely, revealing the wide-open landscape of a life reclaimed. The divorce proceedings progressed with mechanical efficiency, each step forward revealing more about who we truly were when faced with adversity. My attorney called her initial settlement proposal laughably aggressive. She wanted the house, half my retirement accounts, ongoing support payments, and even partial ownership of my upcoming stock options from work. "She's operating under outdated assumptions," my lawyer explained during our strategy meeting. "Many spouses still expect significant payouts regardless of contribution or prenuptial agreements. The reality will be quite different." That reality crystallized during our first mediation session. The conference room's sterile environment matched the clinical precision with which her financial expectations were systematically dismantled. Each demand was met with documented evidence. The prenuptial agreement she had signed, bank records showing my disproportionate contributions to our assets, and proof that she had maintained her career throughout our marriage without interruption. Her expression shifted from confidence to disbelief as the mediator explained that our state's laws, combined with our specific circumstances and agreements, created a very different outcome than she had anticipated. There would be no alimony. The house sale proceeds would be divided based on documented contributions, not equally. Her access to my future earnings ended with the marriage. "This can't be right," she protested, looking from her lawyer to the mediator. "We were married for 5 years. I'm entitled to half of everything." "Marriage isn't an automatic entitlement to someone else's assets or future earnings," the mediator explained patiently, "especially with a valid prenuptial agreement and no children involved." The drive to financial independence I had maintained throughout our marriage, insisting on separate retirement accounts, keeping detailed records of contributions to joint purchases, maintaining my own credit history, now served as my financial salvation. What she had once mockingly called my spreadsheet mentality had preserved my economic future. After the mediation, she requested to speak with me privately in the parking lot. Gone was the righteous anger, replaced with calculated reasonableness. "This doesn't have to be so adversarial," she suggested, her voice softening to the persuasive tone that had once convinced me to forgive her indiscretions. "We could work this out between us more fairly than these lawyers are suggesting." I recognized the familiar strategy: create an emotional connection, suggest the professionals were creating unnecessary conflict, then negotiate directly where her manipulation skills could operate without oversight. The current proposal follows our prenuptial agreement exactly, I replied calmly. There's nothing unfair about honoring the contract we both signed willingly. Her facade cracked slightly, frustration bleeding through. That was different. I signed that before I knew what marriage would really be like. Before I understood what I was giving up. Exactly. I agreed. Just as I filed for divorce before, you could implement your plan to maximize what you took from me on your way out. The shock on her face confirmed what her friend's husband had revealed. She hadn't expected me to know about her strategic timing plans. Who told you that? She demanded, voice sharpening with genuine alarm. Does it matter? The important thing is that it's true. For several seconds, she stood silent, recalculating her position. When she spoke again, her approach shifted entirely. Look, I made mistakes. I said things I shouldn't have. Maybe even considered options I wouldn't have actually pursued. Her eyes glistened with well-timed tears. But throwing away 5 years over words instead of actions seems extreme. We could try counseling, take some time to reconsider. The offer might have tempted the man I had been months earlier. The one who measured his worth by his ability to maintain a failing relationship. That man had disappeared when I embraced my own freedom. I'm not interested in being someone's financial security plan. I responded simply. The divorce continues as scheduled. The house sold quickly in the competitive market. The proceeds divided according to our documented contributions rather than equally. My retirement accounts remained intact. Her attempts to claim partial ownership of my upcoming work stock options were rejected by the court. Throughout this process, I maintained my focus on rebuilding. I secured a promotion at work that had previously seemed impossible due to her resistance to relocation. I reconnected with friends who had drifted away during my marriage. I began training for a marathon, something she had discouraged as taking too much time away from us. The most unexpected development came from my improved relationship with my family. Without her subtle interference, scheduling conflicts, last-minute changes, or manufactured emergencies, I visited them more frequently. The distance that had grown between us gradually closed as we recovered our connection. You seem like yourself again, my father observed during one visit. We missed this version of you. The true cost of my prison sentence became clearer with each passing day of freedom. Not just financial sacrifices, but the gradual erosion of identity, aspirations, and authentic connections. As the divorce neared its conclusion, I realized the marriage had begun failing long before her prison comment. From the moment I started locking away parts of myself to keep a false peace. 1 year after signing the final divorce papers, I barely recognized my former life. The promotion I had accepted required relocation to Chicago, a move that would have been impossible during my marriage. My apartment overlooked the lake, offering sunrise views that greeted me each morning as I prepared for my daily run. The marathon I had completed 6 months earlier had transformed not just my physical appearance, but my entire approach to challenges. The financial recovery had been even more dramatic than anticipated. Without supporting her impulsive spending and constant lifestyle upgrades, my savings grew steadily. The investment portfolio I had protected during our divorce had performed exceptionally well in the market upswing. Freedom had delivered prosperity that imprisonment had prevented. Professional success followed similar trajectories. Without the constant drain of domestic tension and emotional manipulation, my focus and creativity flourished. The client roster I managed had tripled, earning me recognition within the industry and additional stock options that significantly increased my net worth. The company's expansion into international markets meant frequent travel, another aspect of career growth that would have created unbearable conflict before. My social circle had contracted then expanded in unexpected ways. Some mutual friends had drifted away during the divorce, unable to navigate divided loyalties. Others had revealed themselves as more her friends than mine, dropping contact entirely. The surprising development was how many new authentic connections formed once I stopped organizing my social life around her preferences and limitations. The most meaningful relationships came from reconnecting with old friends and strengthening family bonds. Holidays were no longer exercises in compromise and disappointment, but genuine celebrations. Weekend trips with friends became regular events rather than carefully negotiated exceptions. Dating happened organically without pressure or timelines, each connection teaching me more about what genuine partnership might look like. I had nearly forgotten about her completely when our paths unexpectedly crossed at an industry conference in Atlanta. She had apparently taken a position with a company tangentially related to my field, information that would have once sent me into anxious planning, but now registered as merely an interesting coincidence. Our eyes met across the hotel lobby during the morning coffee break. For a moment, we both froze in mutual recognition before social convention forced movement. I nodded politely, prepared to continue toward my scheduled meeting when she approached, hesitation visible in each step. "You look well," she offered, eyes assessing my appearance with obvious surprise. The implied contrast with her own situation hung unspoken between us. The woman before me bore little resemblance to my memories. Designer clothes had been replaced with standard business attire. The confident posture had diminished into something more cautious. The carefully maintained appearance showed signs of stress and hasty preparation, rather than meticulous attention. "Thank you." "How have you been?" I responded with genuine neutrality, neither seeking details nor avoiding basic courtesy. "Managing." Her tight smile conveyed volumes about current circumstances. The job market was tougher than expected. "I'm still trying to find the right fit." I noticed her glance at my conference badge, with its executive title and company logo. Recognition flickered across her face. She was aware of my company's recent successes in the market. "I heard you moved to Chicago," she continued when I offered no additional information. "That promotion you were considering?" "Yes. It turned out to be the right move." The simplicity of my answer highlighted how unnecessary previous complications had been. Awkward silence stretched between us until she spoke again, voice lowered with practiced intimacy. "Maybe we could grab coffee later? Catch up properly." The invitation surprised me, only because it seemed so irrelevant to my current life. There was nothing to catch up on. No connection to maintain. No purpose to serve. The relief of that realization washed through me. Complete emotional freedom had finally arrived. "I appreciate the offer, but my schedule is completely booked during the conference. Good luck with your job search." I moved past her toward my meeting, feeling nothing but a mild curiosity about this brief intersection with my former life. No anger, no resentment, no satisfaction in her apparent difficulties. Just the peaceful indifference that comes from complete healing. Later that evening, while dining with colleagues, I received a text from an unknown number. "You were right to leave when you did. I'm sorry I made our marriage a prison for both of us." I didn't respond. No response was necessary. The message itself represented her continuing emotional entanglement with a past I had fully released. My freedom wasn't just financial or social. It was the complete liberation from needing her acknowledgement, apology, or suffering to validate my choices. That night, standing on my hotel balcony overlooking the city lights, I reflected on the irony of her prison metaphor. The bars she had perceived were largely of her own creation, constraints formed by perpetual dissatisfaction, and the belief that happiness existed somewhere else, with someone else, in some other life. My own imprisonment had been self-imposed through misplaced loyalty and the surrender of authenticity for false peace. True freedom, I had discovered, wasn't about escaping commitment or responsibility. It came from aligning your life with your values, maintaining healthy boundaries, and refusing to compromise your dignity to accommodate someone else's dysfunction. By setting her free from our marriage, I had unlocked my own potential for a life without emotional manipulation or constant compromise. The prison doors hadn't just opened, they had disappeared entirely, revealing endless horizons of possibility once I found the courage to walk away from what no longer served my growth. And finally, locking my heart and wallet against her access, I had opened them both to a life of authentic abundance. Our story has come to an end. Thanks for watching.
After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind, or maybe it has brought back some old memories. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories, and they connect all of us. Everyone has their own unique journey in life, and we all try to understand the world in our own way. These kinds of moments remind us that we are all human, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and always learning something new. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it with your friends. Your thoughts and feedback are always valuable to us, as they motivate us to create even better content. Every story has its own unique angle, and our goal is to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. Stories like these help us realize that life's journey is different for everyone, and by hearing other stories, we learn something new. You can also share your own stories with us. Your experiences are valuable to us as well, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave your feedback. We aim to create content that brightens your mind and gives you new ideas every time. If you've already seen this video before, your feedback is still important. With every piece of feedback, we can improve our content and bring a new perspective to our viewers. Today, what we saw was just a small part of the many stories shared on Reddit and across the world. It's a reminder of how we all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with each other. This video was only an example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. We hope to continue sharing such stories that help us all learn and grow together. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more amazing content. Your support keeps us going, and we will strive to bring you more thought-provoking and heartwarming stories. Until next time, take care and stay curious. **